Are you a business owner looking for real advice and input? You're in the right place. From concept to launch to growth, funding, and beyond. Welcome to Startup Hustle with your hosts. One once sold a business for $150 million. The other, the author of $1 Million Bedroom. Here are your hosts of Startup Hustle, Matt DeCoursey and Matt Watson.
And we're back. Another episode of Startup Hustle. Matt DeCoursey here with Matt Watson. Hi, Matt.
What's up?
Well, I appreciate your spirit here on Red Friday.
I'm feeling like a fan.
I know. I'm a big fan, too, even though I'm not wearing my red jersey. And, we're talking a lot. We're going to talk a little bit about fan experience today. Before we get started, I need to let everyone know that Startup Hustle is brought to you by Fullscale.io, the business that you and I own together, right?
Yeah, I'm a fan of that too.
I am as well. And if you guys want to see how much my face is made for radio, you can also check out our new YouTube channel where you can like, comment, or subscribe, or check us out on @StartupHustle Podcast on the gram.
Check out our jerseys for Red Friday.
It's true. And then you can also check out our guest today, Jason Houseworth, the CEO of FanThreeSixty.
It's a pleasure to be here. And I also have my Patrick Mahomes jersey on.
Yeah.
I didn't even ask Matt about this, but I'm very excited about the opening weekend. The last time I wore this jersey, the AFC Championship game.
Oh, dude, do we have to talk about that?
It's
damn D Ford.
Damn Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Dreamy ass.
God.
But, hey, it feels good to put it back on knowing we're starting fresh.
So before we start talking about FanThreeSixty and all the cool stuff you guys do to...
I'm a fan first, CEO second.
Yeah, all right.
Well,
That's good for your company.
I am too. So, all right, we're going to have to clear the air. So for those of you listening in Kansas City, it's okay. It's fair to be salty about the Chiefs losing the AFC Championship. How did the frickin' Patriots? So the Patriots are following me around. When I lived in Indianapolis, they tormented me back home here in KC, and now they're tormenting me. We sat through, what was it, maybe 3 degrees? Did you go to the game? You went to the game.
Are you talking about Indy or are you talking about the Patriots game?
I'm talking about the AFC Championship
I went to
game.
both of them, but
it was like 10 degrees.
I lived in Indianapolis for 7 years, in between growing up in Kansas City and then coming back. So
I'm sorry about that.
Well, when I was there, I was a Colts fan because those were like the years that Peyton Manning was just killing it. So, by the way, one year I cheated on the Chiefs. I rooted for the Colts. That was the year the Chiefs won one game. So I was like, let's jump on the bandwagon. But, yeah, so they always had a thing going. But we sat through, it was 3 degrees. I bought electric gloves for the game, which they were a lie. They did not even get warm. It was like the worst planning ever. And we were in the first row of the lower bowl in the end zone, where the wind was blowing directly into our face the whole time. The upside of it was my wife became the poster child for the cold. Do you remember that, Matt?
Oh, yeah, she was on the news or something like that,
She was
right?
on 2 different late night shows, one of which Adam Lambert was singing a song about Tom Brady in the AFC Championship game. But my wife, Jill, had bundled herself up. She looked like, is it Kenny from South Park? It's like, she was
all... You could see her eyes.
Yeah, that was basically how she was. And then because the camera people were smart, they waited till I went to go pee to take the footage of her. So I didn't even get in as the guy. So she's standing next to some dude that clearly wasn't me. So not only was she on 2 different late night shows, she was also on some other stuff. And then everyone asked me, so who was your wife at the game with? I was like, argh. So
it sounds like you've had some great fan experiences.
I didn't have a good fan experience, but and honestly, I actually had a terrible fan experience because it also took me almost 2 hours to get in the game. Yeah. So now some of that stuff is FanThreeSixty, and we love it when you are interactive. So, and you're going to spell this out, FAN360, just like it sounds.com. Go check out what Jason's company does. But you guys work with teams and venues and stuff to help improve the user experience of the fan, right?
Fan experience, that's what we're all about.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So what can you tell us about like the basis of the fan experience and the data and all that stuff that goes on?
Well, I'm glad you said that because we believe that the experience begins with the data.
Right.
We like to say we want to know more about fans than anyone else so that we can use what we know about them in order to make their experience even better by knowing what they want and when they want it. And the reality is that we live in an experience economy. Everyone has a very short attention span.
Yep.
So you better make the most of the time you get. And in the experience economy, data is by far the most valuable currency.
So what are some of the things you can help the teams or the venues do with this then? Like, what are some of the use cases?
Well, I mean, we'll get into the use cases, but generally, we want every fan to feel like that experience was made for them.
Yeah.
Think about it as personalization at scale, right? You talk about full scale. I mean, you've got a single event that is a very short amount of time. You've got, in the case of Arrowhead, what is it, 72,000?
I think it's like 80.
80,000.
Almost 80, I think. Almost.
So you've got 80,000 people, and yet you want every fan to feel like that experience was, literally made for me.
Mm-hmm.
That whether it's the content you push me or the offer that you provide to me, but I want you to use what you know about me and make that experience better.
So, and I don't know if you know this about me, Jason. I know Matt does, but I was in the ticket business for 8 years. And I think we talked about that, and it's been a while since I've done that, but I got a kind of a third-party perspective on what you guys do, the perspective of the team and the perspective of the fans, because as I went through the years with that, I talked to a lot of reps that worked for the NFL, Major League, and they're having a hard time competing against themselves. And so why? All right, so the NFL is a perfect example. The NFL has created an amazing high-definition experience at home, fantasy football and stuff like that, and they literally have created competition for their live experience because it's kind of easy to sit at home and watch the game on TV.
And not 3 degrees.
And play, and do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it is for some people, but the thing is they've created some competition. So, and then they also had things like these blackout rules where they weren't going to show the game on TV unless they sold all the tickets. So, as in the final years of this, I talked to a lot of teams that were struggling to improve the fan experience. They've done things like, some of it's just like people want to check their fantasy football team, but there's really bad Wi-Fi in the stadium or something like that. And as I exited the ticket business, I saw a lot of these things that were attempting to, kind of like track what you buy or what you're doing. Is that how you guys start with this, or is it a different, like, where does the data come from?
Well, we help our clients with everything from the compulsories, which, you have to have the data to really use it, right?
Right.
So you need to collect it, and with Wi-Fi, it's definitely just that's an easy source of leads.
Sure.
But you want to help them collect the data, but then, the first rule of data collection is if you're going to collect it, you better use it to make my experience better. So then we're going to help them collect the data, and then we're going to bring that together into a single fan profile. We call it the FanThreeSixty profile, because that's a 360-degree view of that fan.
So what all kind of data does that include?
Everything that we can get, and it begins with ticketing, and that's why as a former ticket broker, you understand. Yeah, that's one piece of the data, but the problem is that clubs are buying microservice type solutions, and each one has its own data store. And so, they go out and they buy Appetize as their point of sale, and then that has a piece of the pie. But what you want to provide are insights that when you have all of the data about the fan. And just, one example of that will probably blow you away is that for people who are, going to their first time in any sporting event, they are twice as likely to come back if they make any purchase. And yet that's an insight, Matt, that you don't see unless you're able to actually take the ticketing data for someone and then bring it together with that point of sale data.
So if you go to your first whatever game and you make a purchase while you're there, you're likely to come back to another game?
You're twice as likely to come back if you make any purchase versus
any purchase.
And it's
wow, that's interesting.
Not of a hot dog, but of like a Mahomes jersey or something.
Any food and beverage
even just food.
Anything.
Oh.
And so the point is that like what that points to is that basic engagement, right? You want to have me do more than just show up, and if you can get me to engage in some way, you're much more likely to have me come back.
So you're able to collect, like, how are you able to collect the merchandise, like point of sale data?
Well, what we do
You're able
is
to collect that and then match that to
we
who bought tickets?
We've taken many years to collect data feeds across email, point of sale, ticketing, et cetera, and then to actually, our platform brings that together and associates it to a single fan profile. But think about it just like, our primary founder, Cliff Illig, founded Cerner, and Cerner, that's what they do. They create the EMR, the medical record for a patient, in which they started out in the lab with that component, where he and Neil built a solution for one hospital to have a lab solution, and then they started, connecting more and more pieces about a patient together, and now Cerner has, I don't know, over 90 modules of different things that they sell to hospitals. But it started with, hey, we need to bring everything together about a patient so that that patient record can move around the hospital seamlessly. And in the same way, when they bought the Wizards, they said, we know from the beginning that our club is going to depend on how much we know about our fans and how effectively we use that data in the fan experience. And they used it from the beginning in the way that they built the brand, and they used what they knew about the fans and what they wanted in order to change the Wizards to the Sporting Kansas City. And then they literally built constituencies that they used, and they iterated with the architects when they built Children's Mercy Park, which is the MLS stadium for the Sporting Kansas City here in the Kansas City area.
And that's been a very successful franchise. I mean, as far as like Matt, you're a season ticket holder there, and Jason, I'm assuming I'm assuming you've been to your fair share.
And for those that are listening, Sporting Kansas City is our professional soccer team.
But let's look at this, because professional sports in Kansas City has been tough in some regards. Like the Royals were great when they're good. Well, people like good teams. No one's going to go really.
They like a good fan experience.
They like a good
which
fan
has to
experience.
include at least a little bit of winning.
Right. It has to include some winning. But so I remember, because the Wizards were just okay as far as like the adoption of the team.
But they were in Arrowhead.
Well, that was the point.
Which wasn't a
good experience. Yeah. So then they build this new stadium. Now, when they were doing that, that was actually when I did live in Indianapolis, and I remembered thinking, because at the time, soccer's so popular worldwide, but it hasn't been a staple here in the States. And I was like, man, can Kansas City really do this? Because I'd seen the Royals kind of suck with attendance sometimes and stuff like that, but I've been so impressed with, as a ticket broker, I then a couple of years called Sporting, and they're like, yeah, there's like a 2-year waiting list. I was like, what? Like, really?
Yeah.
And so.
It's amazing.
How many people fit in that stadium? 15,000?
Sporting?
Yeah.
I think it's like 19,000. They'll get about 20,000 with standing room only.
Okay, and it's sold out most games. That's the average attendance that the Royals get every game. Actually, they'll be lower than that.
I was going to say, I think the Royals attendance.
Well, it was high when,
it's one thing what they say the attendance is, and it's another who shows up.
That's paid attendance, so that doesn't mean everyone actually even went to the game.
Yeah.
Think about that. So when we were there, and by the way,
it also doesn't mean that everyone stays for all 9 innings.
No. So when when the Royals were good, they were over 3 million, and now they're well below half that. But that experience has a lot to do with it. Now, I'm a huge believer in the experience. We actually structure a lot of our marketing around, I call it experience-based marketing, because with the suites. So we have one at the Sprint Center here in town. We take people to concerts. We also go to the Royals game. And when I was so we call it Sweet and Greet. And my whole premise with that was, if we get we have two options here. We get a whole bunch of people in a room that are similar in their thought process: entrepreneurs, influencers, investors. You don't know what's going to happen. Good stuff is going to happen. People talk to each other. But really, my thought process was behind that, and it came from my history in tickets, is if you can give someone a memorable experience, they don't forget you for that very reason. Like, I can send you some free pens, or take you out to lunch, or send you pizzas on a Friday, and that might actually be better than the first two. But if we give you a cool experience, where you meet someone that might be good for your business, or you take your wife or your kids out to a good time. All right, perfect example. Tomorrow, the Backstreet Boys.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, let's be real. Like, no one, well, other than Jason, you and I don't really want to go to that show. Watson probably
I'm
does.
excited, yeah.
Backstreet's
I'm back,
going.
baby.
The
Are you
No.
But are you hosting clients? What clients do you need to host at the Backstreet Boys?
Do you want to know who we gave the tickets to?
Sure.
Lauren Conway, an innovator.
I was going to say 30-something females, probably.
Female founders. My wife is going. Our sales and marketing coordinator Breland's going. And then Tim Johnson, if you're listening, he won tickets at the live podcast.
Oh wow, that was a long time ago.
And picked Backstreet Boys to take his daughter. So he's going to be in the suite.
We're not judging.
No judging. He's going to be in, but Tim, you're going to be in the suite with 15 other women. That will have already occurred by the time this comes out. But that experience, so like, and people will go to shows and stuff that they don't care about. Now, in our Royal Suite, no one watches the game. No one watches the game. We had 30 people in there on Tuesday night. And at one point I looked around and not one person was watching the game. They were there for the experience that was occurring. It was fun to have the game out there, but that was very memorable. And so what I want to kind of move into next is, all right, so now you gather the data. Like, for example, is one of the data points when someone enters the stadium?
Yeah, of course.
So
ticket scans when you cross a geofence.
Oh,
absolutely.
Because
think of that one.
Well, some people are like the first people in the stadium. You ever see like the pregame show? It's like an hour before. They're like, yeah, we'll be back in 90 minutes for kickoff, Clark. And there's like one dude in the stadium. But that guy's in there. He's in your spending environment now, right?
Absolutely.
So is that...
And there's a big difference between when certain groups of fans enter, right? As far as when season ticket members come in, they'll come in, late, or if they're actually part of an area where they get free food and beverage, then they may come in early in order to experience that. But
let's make up a quiz here, and maybe we're right or wrong. So I would think that people that would enter the stadium earlier are more likely to purchase merchandise.
So more likely to purchase
in general.
Yes, in general.
Well, but because the thing is like if you're going in an hour early, you're like going in because you're like really excited about it.
Or you have a GA seat, you got to go sit in.
That's absolutely right.
Too.
I think that when there's
there's
south stand and you've got areas that first come first serve on the seating.
Yep.
That's also a great way in order to get people in early, to get them. But
sure.
I mean, I think that if you look at Children's Mercy Park, the Sporting Kansas City Stadium, it was designed for a number of different stakeholders, right? Like each fan, like in the physical venue, can actually feel like that they have a part that is just theirs.
Yeah, if it's a suite or if they're in the GA section.
The Budweiser Brew House.
Special
it's
events
only
and parties.
Built for the Cauldron.
Yeah.
For those members, they have their own entrance. They have their own.
Yeah.
So the idea, with the founders of FanThreeSixty was that it began with the venue, but FanThreeSixty was then to continue that and to continue the data collection and what they knew about fans so that they could make every match feel like it was something where it was personalized.
So the data's more its use case is way past like, hey, can I give you a coupon for something that you might buy in there? It's also, it's about like figuring out like what parts of the stadium people might gravitate towards, or just the patterns of like the users in general.
Yeah, it depends on the outcome that ultimately our client wants to go.
Okay.
Because it started with the Sporting Kansas City, but right now. Tonight, the U.S. Open men's semifinal. You've got they're a client. The University of Virginia, they're a client. Their men's football team has their first home game tonight. So what both of those clients want to achieve is very different.
Sure.
So University of Virginia, they've got they had a great basketball season.
Yeah, that's true.
They were lacrosse champions, but cross-selling into football is where they need help.
I see.
The U.S. Open, what's interesting is that, have you guys been to the U.S. Open?
No.
It's amazing.
You're talking tennis, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Amazing fan experience. Flushing Meadows, I think, is a world-class venue. I highly recommend it for you and your listeners. That venue is one where there are a lot of people that go on the grounds, especially in the week prior to the actual events, where they open the grounds even for people that don't have tickets.
Okay.
Why do they do that? They want to collect data and then be able to take the excess ticket inventory, which fluctuates depending upon who's winning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Like on the men's side,
Right.
it's
if it's a big name is winning or losing, they're going to go to that game or not go to that game and all that kind of stuff.
That's right. And then on the women's side, you've got Serena still on it,
right.
on the final tomorrow. So, what they're using it for is they're using it for automated marketing flows.
Sure.
Where as soon as you buy a ticket, they're using us to then create what I call set it and forget it marketing campaigns.
Yep.
So once somebody falls into a particular audience, we gather all the data, and then we know the audiences that they really care about. So then we're actually moving them into those audiences, and then communicating to them automatically. So that really, the U.S. Open is able to do things where they were having to do a lot of manual work. We can now automate those workflows, if you will, from a marketing perspective based on the data. So those are the types of things that we do day in, day out for our clients. But then, we also have a mobile app, and the activations around that are different. So if you think about FanThreeSixty, yes, we begin by looking for signal in the data. Then we generate insights from those. I mentioned one, but we use those to generate insights. Those insights then allow us to group fans to take action on. Because I think about us as hopefully the medallia of sports, right? We're a sports-focused company in that I think you could say within the experience management space, there are all kinds of players. Medallia just went public a few months ago. It's a $4.5 billion market cap. So yes, we would like to be that. But the fascinating thing about Medallia is that...
And let's get some backup. So Medallia, their data, are you familiar? Have you heard of them?
No.
So they do experience management, but they were the founders of the Net Promoter Score.
Okay.
So they just look at a number of pieces of your customer feedback, and they try to give you insights into, hey, what should you do with that? But first of all, they don't actually have vertical data that's specific to you. They would never bring in a ticketing or a point of sale or
Sure.
things that are actually specific to your business, and they also don't connect the action, if you will. And so that's what's unique about us is that, and it's actually what I believe strongly in that you're going to see in terms of experience management, which is that vertical focus and the focus to use my data types. Because it's very different than if I'm a real estate agent, which I've talked to some, they have the same type of problem. Hey, how could you use the data that I have that includes things like housing trends, my own client base, and the types of outcomes that I want that I know, every 7 years I turn over my house and different things that I know about refinancing where I can actually give the nudge, right? Ultimately, you think about delivery of a personalized, offer, communication, whatever it happens to be, Matt, that is a nudge. Using everything that I know about you in order to provide what you want when you want it, that's a nudge. And that may be to collect more data, it may be to make your experience better, just to delight you, and it may be to create some type of revenue outcome. Those are the three broad activations that we're trying to do with our client. And we believe strongly that experience management begins with data that's specific to your industry. And because we want to know as much as we can about that fan. What transactions do they have? The behaviors, what types of things are they engaging in terms of content, et cetera. And then we bring all that together. And within sports, we then use all of the things we know about a fan in order to deliver what they want when they want it. So,
by the way, we always like to point out our own distraction when Breland comes in and takes pictures of us. And if you want to check out the pictures of the show and see what goes on, and also
see us in our Patrick Mahomes.
And Lego Voltron. Let's not forget Lego Voltron. Voltron, you've been really quiet this episode. I do have his mic turned down. Should I turn that back up? I'm afraid what he'd have to say.
Does he make like weird mechanical noises?
I don't know. It's possible. Hang on. Had to pose for a picture with Lego Voltron. So,
but Matt, let's think about
Thank you for getting me back on track. By the way, I needed that.
I've heard you say that experience is really powerful.
It is.
And so think about the first experience you had with any type of sporting or live event. What was it for you? Because I can remember it very clearly.
The Royals, as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean like a kid. And my experience was maybe a little different, but it was powerful. So my mom was really good friends with the wife of the Royals third base coach, and the guy was the coach for a long time. So we used to go and we would sit with the players' wives. And those were some of my first memories, but they were obviously a little more passionate and but here's the thing is we used to go a lot because, I don't know, we just went. But that shaped me because I became a huge baseball fan. I played baseball. It's what I wanted to do. I still play baseball, like as an adult. But it was very formative and it really it really stuck in that regard. And then the next thing in line with that, so my dad's like a monster Notre Dame fan. It's kind of crazy, right?
Do you remember the first time you went to a Notre Dame game?
I do.
Touchdown Jesus.
Oh yeah, Touchdown Jesus is there.
So what's
we have like years of pictures of Touchdown Jesus with our arms up in the air, with as if touchdown with him in the background.
Yeah.
So, but what stuck with that was the power of the crowd. Too, that whole you go in these football stadiums. So you mentioned the University of Virginia, and college football is amazing because college football, those stadiums are bigger than our NFL stadiums.
Yeah.
Like the University of Michigan's like over 100,000 people in that place.
Well, and then so one of our clients is Speedway Motorsports, and they have Bristol.
Yeah. Oh, that's another good one.
So,
yeah.
University of Tennessee played Virginia Tech
in the middle there. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was the largest college football game ever.
And that was powered by FanThreeSixty. This is actually, was it really? Yeah. That's cool. So, but that's one of the things that's been fun with experience. Like you mentioned, having games in weird places. So when I was a ticket broker, they did the Winter Classic.
Yeah.
For the very first time, and I can't remember where they did. They did it in Fenway or So here they are. They build a hockey rink, in a really iconic place. Now they're doing these all over. They've kind of lost their uniqueness there, but it's still unique. Like they did one, we're talking about Notre Dame. They played a hockey game last year on the field at Notre Dame Stadium. So these are ways to kind of enhance that experience and do something a little different because that is a challenge. You look at the Royals, they're going to play 81. Well, they play 80 games at Kauffman Stadium this year, and then they went and played one in Omaha.
Yeah.
And that game sold out.
I think it was more than, most of the games that have been at Kauffman this year.
That's weird.
Right?
They played
25,000?
Yeah, I don't know what it was sold out.
Yeah.
I know, but it was a big deal. But you talk about that experience. So another example is, the Yankees are playing someone next year on the field where they filmed the movie Field of Dreams.
Yeah, in Iowa. I'd
What?
like to go. You guys want to go? That would be a great road trip.
We were talking about that.
Really? That's crazy.
I think I already have a pass to go because my wife literally, she said, "Are you going to go?"
I feel like you're the guy to get passes from actually. But you talk about that weird experience, and it came up the other night when Jill and I were driving to the John Mayer concert, and because someone had reached out, they're like, "I know you haven't done tickets for a long time, but how do I get tickets to this game in Iowa?" And I was like, "I have no idea." And I was thinking about how are they going to pull this off? They're going to have to build a stadium for a day, but those kind of experiences and different stuff definitely stick. So,
but think about I raised the first time you go because it is so critical.
Oh yeah.
And so if you're a club,
if you have a bad experience, you might not go back.
But just think about two different approaches because I always like to use contrast in order to make a point. And approach A is just it's like a website. You could take all the content you have on a website and then just dump it into a mobile app, which a lot of teams do. Or you could take the content that you have and actually make what I care about, be in the mobile app that I sign up for. Right? There's a big in fact there's about a 70% difference in the engagement when you actually show me what is relevant to me versus just showing everything to everybody. And in the same way, in venue, if I walk in and I'm a season ticket member like Matt and I go to 17 Sporting Kansas City games, you want to point out things to me that are unique, maybe for the game. But if it's my first time, don't you want to treat me differently?
Yeah.
And you want to seize that opportunity. But that begins with the data. You have to know, that person who's walking in, you have to know from a ticketing perspective you've never seen them before, right? You have to know when they actually arrive. You have to know these things. And so, like I said, it starts with the collection. you've got to have the data collection, but then you've got to use it. And you absolutely want to use those key fan journeys, like a first-time attendee. You want to make sure that you're blowing them away with that. And that's why, when we think about how do we improve the experience, and yes, we're experience management, it's because nailing experiences like that takes effort beyond just saying, hey, we're gonna make sure that everybody can get in the parking lot. We're gonna make sure everybody can get in the door. You want to go beyond that in order to have your experience be remarkable. And I think the Sporting Kansas City is a remarkable fan experience because they care about doing that.
So what are a couple things that the data that you can share that the data has turned into that are like more tangible? Like, I mean, is this more like, I don't know, give us an example. So you collect all this data, when people are coming in.
You got the first time fans.
Yeah, you got the first time fans or whatever. Give us a real life example of something that could translate into that makes it better. Like, we know we want them to buy something, we know we want the experience to stand out. But what's something that you've seen that has really like made it pop?
Yeah, I think for our, like, believe it or not, the thing that is the most valuable use case first is just fan identification. So knowing who is there, people come in, and clubs only know about 25% of their fans when they begin with ticketing. I know this is going to sound really basic.
Well, is some of that because one person buys 4 tickets and you know the info about one person?
That's exactly right, man, because you buy the ticket, Matt and I, we freeload, and then we bring our other, third fan with the jersey, and they only know the primary ticket buyer.
Right.
And so when we put all the data together, we get about 60% of who's in it. So it begins by you've got to collect the data, and that's the first thing. And then from there, like you can have everything from, like I said, just simple personalization of content within a mobile app. You can increase it 70% by making it highly relevant for one to another, which over the course of a season can more than double the sponsorship value for a team. And for somebody like a university client, like the University of Virginia, those are real dollars. So
those people are like in college football. Using my dad's example, they're really passionate about their team, even if they're not that great.
Yeah.
And I would think that it would be easy to get them to install something or participate in something. My dad would probably reply to anything the University of Notre Dame. I mean, sometimes I call him. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, I'm watching women's fencing. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, Notre Dame's competing for the champion. He's like, are you watching? Yeah. I'm like, I didn't even know that sword fighting was on the internet.
So do you guys create the mobile apps for the team?
Yeah, we have a.
Or you just integrate with them, or?
Yeah, when we think about our fan engagement platform, we think about it first as having an engine to bring all the data forward,
right?
And then we have, activations, ways that clubs can use the insights we have where we organize audiences to then go out and activate. And we have the mobile app. We have a marketing
So like the official Sporting Kansas City app? Is that
the official, yeah. If you look on the official Sporting Kansas City, you'll notice the FanThreeSixty logo on the splash page.
So you guys help them do the mobile ordering and...
Mobile ordering was new this year, absolutely.
What is that
for? Did you use it?
If you're sitting in your seat, you can say, I want a hot dog, and they'll
bring it down?
Yeah.
Good idea. Yeah. Good idea.
So you guys have to integrate in all the real-time stats of the game, the video replay, that in itself is a lot of complexity to build that app.
That's the baseline.
Yeah.
Dude, but by the way, half the reason I don't buy what I want at the stadium is because I don't want to get up, go find it, wait in line, come back. And, some of that's too because if you're with 2 small kids, and, if I was there with my wife, one of us could watch them, but sometimes you got to tote them around, and the idea of carrying a full tray back when you've met my kids, that's game over if I'd let them out in the wild.
So that's cool. You guys create all the mobile apps and everything too.
Have you used mobile? You're on the suite level.
I have used the Sporting Kansas City app a lot in the past. Yeah.
So what else does the app? Does that app do?
So the primary thing is that within the home screen, it's a news feed. Think about it as just like a Facebook feed, and this is something where the content within it is actually built for people that fall into certain audiences. So yes, there are standard things. There will be an injury report that'll be the same, but we try to really, this is actually Aaron Borns, who's the CMO of Sporting Kansas City. He wanted to meet fans where they are, meaning that the audiences that we create, we want to make sure that if you're sitting in the stadium, you shouldn't get a notification that says, watch the live stream for this game. But in the same way, like your dad, if if he was a University of Virginia alumni, he should know that the radio broadcast for the Who's football game tonight is starting because he's nowhere near, the area around Charlottesville.
My dad came to my house on Monday because he wanted me to print out the Notre Dame roster for him. And his printer wasn't working. But for real, like if there was I asked him, I was like, did you look for an app? And he's like, I don't know how to do that. So I just printed it for him because I was on my way out the door. But so that kind of stuff. I'll give you an example of an experience. And this, all right, so professional bull riding, right? PBR. Mm-hmm. We had tickets at the Full Scale Suite at the Sprint Center. I went like 6 years ago. I had fun, but we did the startup roundup. So we invited all these early stage startups to come and like do some stuff. And then I got there and every one of us was like, so how does this work? Meaning like the event. Like, do you know the rules? I do now, but do you know the rules of professional bull riding?
Don't fall off.
Well, right. So, but that's all I knew. I was like, and people kept asking me, and we're sitting there like looking, like it was difficult for us to find the rules of how the event worked. And like there wasn't an app, there wasn't anything. And I had to really search for it. And it was like halfway, like while still watching. It took me a while to figure it out. And I was like, man, this kind of sucks because I don't know how this works. Like I saw they put a dude on a bull and he tries to hang on for 8 seconds and then they give a score. Now, it took me a while to figure that out. It was not intuitive, and I would have loved to have had something that
augment your experience.
Yeah, and so you look at something like, hey, all right, so here's the app you downloaded. Is this the first time you've participated or seen or been at this?
Sure.
Now, on the flip side of that, we went to another thing, Monster Jam.
Yep.
Now, Monster Jam actually had an interactive app that you could like vote on things.
Sure.
And that was a clever way to probably track our data. Or actually, it wasn't even an app; it was just like a website. But it was. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I used it. I voted.
Yeah. So so I think some of that stuff can be a little more interactive. Now, so what are some of the other things that the app does or your apps do that make the experience awesome?
Sure. Well, for our clients, we have, as I mentioned, the app, but then we also have the marketing automation product. We do collect leads via a Wi-Fi product, and then we have a CRM or a sales product, and so Speedway Motorsports has 8 tracks all over the U.S. Next weekend is the Las Vegas Speedway race, and they use FanThreeSixty every track has their own app. They also use this for ticketing sales. Mm-hmm. And then their data is integrated such that they also just use it in order to figure out, which fans need attention, right?
Is that a challenge to handle when all of a sudden no one's using the app and then 100,000 people are all using it at the same time?
Well, yeah, it certainly makes something, you've got to be able to scale, but I'm talking to the guys at full scale, right? So,
but the point is with that is like that's a challenge because I would think that would be hard to test.
Yeah, but it's not, again, like you're thinking about truly just the technical problem, but it's not just that you've got, tens of thousands of people like all on at once, but you also want everybody to feel like it was built for you.
Sure.
Right? And so that's why I keep going back to the idea of personalization and scale and how are you using your data? And really there's a wide range of people in terms of how well they use it. And that's ultimately what we want to do with our clients is we want to take them on a journey. We want to take them on a journey in terms of collecting the right data and then using it in better and smarter ways in order to make the fan experience better.
At one point when we were ticket brokers, I looked at one of our Ticketmaster accounts and I said, man, if anyone ever analyzes this, they're going to think we're really weird. Yeah, because you're buying Taylor Swift
and
then
Justin Bieber
Miley
tickets.
Cyrus and then Metallica, and you're just like it was just like the weirdest stuff.
The U.S. Open is definitely using FanThreeSixty in order to understand the behavior of brokers because they can see the ticketing history across aggregated. And they absolutely know who the ticketing brokers are.
Oh, sure.
So.
Yeah. I'm not going to make too many comments on that. But that's interesting info. And then
I think we want to go.
But then a lot of that too is like I could see a lot of the cross marketing that would come in because they clearly are they segment certain things because I hadn't bought tickets for something and now you're getting emails for similar things. It makes sense.
And
I'm still unfollowing some of those like 3 years later.
Those are what we call audiences. They're just ways to group fans in order to create personalized communications. But I mean, our goal, when I think about my first experience, that really, because it was definitely the Royals game, sitting with my grandma and my aunt, and they were wearing their headphones and
listening to the radio,
and then keeping the card right there.
You always knew those were the real fans, the people that were at the game, the old school style.
Yeah.
If you're running a scorecard, or if you're listening.
Yep.
And then I always enjoyed, one of my Royal season tickets in 2014, I went to every game in 2014, every home game. It was a bucket list thing. I went to all the playoffs. But in one of my seats, there was an old couple that sat in front of me, and he had one earphone, and she would just sit and read the paper the whole time. I was just and not even sports. I'm looking over. She's reading the lifestyle section of the Star. I'm like, wow, that's interesting.
At Sporting Kansas City, there was an old couple every single game that would sit in front of me and do the same thing. He'd bring his iPad and the newspaper.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was a parent, one of his kids was on the team, and he just has to show up or what. But yeah, he didn't pay any attention.
But no, the guy was, and he would sometimes.
Oh yeah, my grandma, my aunt, they were, I think, the most engaged people in the game. So.
I made friends with the guy because sometimes something would happen. And,
you'd say,
hey,
what happened?
Hey, what's going on?
Exactly.
What's Joel Goldberg talking about?
Yeah.
Now I just text Joel.
Was that an error, Grandma?
Yeah.
But I think, I raise it because when I first went to the, my first real live event, you're talking about the difference that a crowd makes, Matt. I remember going to U2 the zoo tour at Arrowhead.
Oh yeah.
And I'd been to a concert before, but I grew up in a very small town, so I not like that.
Concerts are way different than sports. And they're similar, but they're it's a different dynamic as well, though. And we've noticed that in our own suites. There's a big difference between the way the crowd reacts at the Sprint Center when a concert's going on and when we're at the Royals. Because it's just a different, you have to almost structure you can't just sit there and talk like we are now. You can do that at baseball, but you can't do that at concerts. Might be a little harder. So do you guys take a different approach to different types? Because NASCAR, you were mentioning racing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Have you been to a NASCAR race, Matt?
Yeah, you can't talk at
It's loud.
Yeah.
It's way loud. So does that have something to do with the approach as well? Knowing that there's going to be given breaks, pauses, or...
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the whole thing is, it is entertainment, and it's structured that way. Our goal, though, is no matter whether it's a live event or whether it's just a game, if you will. I mean, I want to feel and I want the fan to feel like a participant, and that's I think the first time I felt when I was at U2, I specifically remember, you've got probably 60,000 at Arrowhead. It was completely filled, and there was a moment in the concert where the lights came back on the crowd, and you see everybody with their hands in the air, and you just see this mass of people, and it changes. It's because then really the focus is on you as a fan, and you become not just a spectator, you become a participant, and that's the part that this isn't about data so much as you also want the experience to be something where you can bring the fan in and really give them the sense that you're a participant.
This is the basics of tribe building, the concept of tribe building,
community,
if you can build that community around anything. The community, the interaction that the people have with each other on many levels becomes equal to, and in some cases more valuable than whatever it is they're there or gathering around.
Yeah.
And that is, it's difficult though. It's really difficult because the tribe is finicky. You can gain them or lose them at about the same velocity, if not faster. I mean, it's true. But getting people involved. So the co-author of my last book, Joel Cummins of Humphreys McGee, they did a great job. So this is a band that they operate in what we'll call kind of a niche genre, but they still play for 3,000 to 10,000 people a night. They're doing really well. But 10 years ago, they did an interactive experience where they let their they called it the Bowl, and they let their fans vote live at the show about what
The
songs
next
they
song,
they're a jam band, so they kind of had some time to figure it out. But you could go to these shows and like, okay, here's 2 songs, they're head to head. What do you pick? And so you pick one,
That's
and
cool. I like
that's
that.
what they would go
Yeah.
into next. Now, sometimes with no interruption, meaning like they didn't stop and then play another song. So think about that as a musician. You have to figure out how to segue from one song you're playing into another one that the fans just voted on. But that was wildly popular. And 10 years ago, nobody had done it.
Can you imagine in the NFL if the fans could vote if they should go for it on 4th down or not?
Oh, well, they go for it every time. yeah.
Well, but there are other ways to achieve that. I mean, first of all, they always should build on the traditions of the team, right? I think Sporting Kansas City has some wonderful traditions. So there are those things. Those create that community, which that's not about the fan experience, software, but it's certainly, the elements that you want to build upon. But for us, we want to make someone feel like they're a participant in, and again, I said the first rule of data collection, it's about making sure that you're using that data, but if you can use it in a way where you really make them a participant, and then there are also just things, like we have a light show, like our mobile app, the light show is part of it, where you've got, like at University of Virginia, last year they played Duke. It was a huge night, right? You've got Zion in the building.
Right.
They doubled, the number of people on their mobile app, the week of that event, because people just wanted to download the app so they could be part of the light show.
That's cool.
Right? John
That's
Paul
really cool.
Jones, like I can show you guys a video after this, but like, when you see those things, those visceral, that's far beyond data.
And
right?
and that's like I said, kind of like with the Bowl thing, like you get people involved and they feel like they're doing part of it. There's just like this different bond. It's
that's
like,
really cool.
It's like the voting or the polling thing. It's like, kind of like, oh, I won, and it's just, but there's a level of attraction and interaction. And, that's what a lot of the teams were telling me as I was exiting ticketing, is they were challenged. They were like, we have to step up our game. And I'm seeing that they're really doing that. Obviously, what they're doing with companies like yours is a big part of that. Music is struggling in the same regards, but at the same, the music industry's changed dramatically because, 20 years ago, we bought CDs and records and tangible products that amassed huge amounts of sales. And 20 years ago, streaming at Napster. You look at Napster and like that kind of stuff, and they're like, this is the devil. Well, Napster paved the way and broke down the wall for the whole streaming economy. And now, who buys have you bought an album?
I don't even buy movies anymore. I only stream them.
Yeah. So, and that's, I mean, you mean like a DVD, like a tangible thing.
I don't buy Blu-rays anymore either.
Right. And music, the same thing. Like no one buys an album. So that forced the music industry to get a lot more centric around touring again.
Yep.
Which I love. I think it's
great.
And
having a better fan experience.
And having a better fan
Absolutely.
experience. And that's another thing that's tough though, because like I said, that different dynamic. Now, there's a lot more quote GA stuff at in concerts in general than there is in sports. Like you talking about the lawn at an amphitheater or a floor or stuff like that. And when we went to one of these events at the Sprint, it was Travis Scott actually, and of all
my son was there.
Well, but our suite attendant. So when I got there, and we can get in a little early just because our tickets give us like 30 minutes prior. And I was talking to the suite attendant. There was a line wrapped around the entire building of people waiting to get in, and they were waiting to get a better spot on the floor. And so some of that is like you look at like what can you do to keep those people interested, entertained, engaged, and stuff like that. So Jason, I have a quick question as we kind of round this out and down. What's the biggest challenge you guys have had to overcome, or something that maybe you didn't think about, or you're like, I think anyone with a startup is kind of like, okay, wow, we didn't even consider that. And this is kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Well, for us, our history in terms of the way the platform evolved, it initially was one where we started to build, transactional things that our clients needed, right? Like, hey, we'll build a CRM for you. We'll build a mobile app for you.
In-seat ordering.
And the data was behind it, but the data was an aspect that we said, let's just give them access to it. And then they'll go in. We'll just give them a query tool, and then we'll let them go in and find what they can do. the biggest mistake we made, to answer your question, was...
Can I guess? Was it assuming that they would actually do anything with it?
It was absolutely...
They don't know what to
they
do
would
with
know
it.
what to do with it.
They don't know what to do with it.
The data says that, you know, there's a $13 return for every dollar invested in data science. But that doesn't mean that everybody knows what to do with it.
Don't know what question to ask.
And let me just tell you a story that to me articulates why this is so easy, you know, to you know, as in terms of a failure, if you will, not only on us but also on other people. But I love traveling, and I'm a diver. Do you guys dive?
Mm-mm.
No, but I'm on my way somewhere where a lot of people do. Headed to Cebu here in a few hours.
So I went to the Galapagos recently, and the Galapagos is a world-class diving site. I think it's the best place to dive in the world. And so from Kansas City, fly into Peru, you know, it's like that's a day, and then you spend the night, and then you fly out to the Galapagos, that's another half day. Then I get on a boat, and then I go overnight to get up to like Darwin's Arch, and really the, you know, the northernmost part of the Galapagos. So call it 2.5 days of travel. We get all the way up there, and I see like a National Geographic cruise ship. So we're on a small like live aboard dive boat. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at these guys, and it's not a dive boat. They're just cruising around the Galapagos, and the Galapagos is 97%. It's, you know, it's a nature conservancy, so you can't even access it unless you're, you know, a scientist. And so the only thing that the people on that boat saw was what was visible, right? I mean, they could effectively see the horizon, and they could see the things that were brought up from what was under, you know, if there was something that happened to come up to the top of the water, they could see it. But the reality is that, like, I went 80 to 100 feet deeper, and I dove right next to a whale shark that was about the size of a city bus. I could have run my hand down the back of it. I can show you guys a video right after this. It was massive. We saw unbelievable marine life. 80 feet, like, I traveled 2.5 days, and I'm guessing that people also traveled many hours or days to get on that boat, but they didn't go 80 feet deeper. And yet they didn't see, like,
They didn't see
90% of
Yeah.
what I saw. And the reason is that nobody brought it to the surface, Matt. And so for us, like, just to assume, hey, we'll bring all the data together and then you'll find it. No. We need to actually, like, look. We need to bring the data together, look for the signal inside that data. And then we need to pull the insights, bring those to the surface for you, and then help automate, simplify what it is that you're going to do with those audiences, so that these are things that are really, you know, call it do it for me or set it and forget it, whatever it is. But we have to make it tangible what you're going to get, and then we have to absolutely, you know, make it where we lead you and automate to whatever degree we can the outcome. And that ultimately, I think, is not only how we continue to, you know, to iterate as a company and how I'm trying to transform what we do, but also how we transform, you know, the way our clients act on their data.
That's a great analogy, because all those people on the boat want to have a great experience, but they don't want to go scuba diving 90 feet underwater.
But I think that they
or they don't know how.
They don't know how, or
But here's the problem.
They all want to have a great experience.
If you survey them afterwards, I bet that they would say, I had a great time.
Yeah.
And I saw amazing things. But, like, if they talk to me,
Yeah.
how do you think they'd feel?
Yeah.
And so
Right,
the
for
point
sure.
is that most professional sports clubs, and actually there are other businesses that are the same way, like, because they don't know what's in the data, they think, oh, we're doing a pretty good job. Even baseball,
Sure.
right? Like, baseball has a declining attendance, and yet the Royals have grown 10x in their value in a very short amount of time. And so there are indications that, hey, you're doing the right things when you may not be. And yet, if you don't spend the time or don't know how to get to the data, then you're missing out. And so we have to. This is the FanThreeSixty. We have to make sure that we're bringing those insights to the surface,
Sure.
and then making it really easy for them to, you know, to capitalize on them to improve the fan experience.
The reason I was able to make that educated guess is I was recently talking to a local business person that does some machine learning type stuff and data analytics. It's way different than what you guys do, but he was expressing to me that the I don't want to say that he called it a mistake, but what the biggest oversight they had made to that point was assuming that the companies they were working with would be actionable with the data, and I just always refer that to a sales equation. Like, you have data on the left side of the equal, on the other side of the equal sign you have a sale or an action, and if you don't complete both sides of that equation, either side is either struggling or kind of worthless.
That's right, and I think that what I see and what we do is we help clients make their data active.
Yeah.
And really analytics is about being reactive. It's really looking at data and saying, hey, here's an insight. If you look in the rearview mirror, this might have helped our business. But you want to be a model-driven company.
Yeah, but might have is a past tense.
That's right. I mean, what you want to do is you want to know in real time. For instance, if you know like a retention predictive model, meaning that like I can look in the rearview mirror and find out that in a MLS season that if you miss 3 games, you're likely to not come back, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, how does that help me? But what if, based on ticket scans, in real time, I know that you've missed 2 games, and now, like, I want to make sure that Matt comes, to the next game and doesn't miss 3 in a row. That is actually using my data in real time and actually, what we call real-time activations.
That's a good example.
We ultimately want to use that data.
That data is valuable also to people like SeatGeek and StubHub and whatever. Like, hey, these people aren't using their tickets. I would think that there's some cross-promotion there.
Ticket utilization, for sure.
And by the way, before we get to the thrilling conclusion here, I want to remind everyone the Startup Hustle podcast is brought to you by Fullscale.io. We help people build software teams fast and affordably. You can also check out our YouTube channel. We're on the gram at Startup Hustle Podcast, where you can also see the latest pictures of the new co-host, Lego Voltron.
Yeah.
Check out Matt's company, Stackify. They do application performance management. And if you get a chance, like, review, subscribe. Tell us what you think. We'd love to hear your thoughts and input, because we like data too. So as we round this out, Jason, I'm going to give you the mic here for a second. What do you see down the road? What are your guys' big plans at FanThreeSixty? Like, what's the exciting outlook on all of this?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what I just mentioned, which is I want to make it absolutely clear. I want to bring the insights that are really valuable to the surface for all of my clients, and I want to make it absolutely clear what we see in your fan data, and then I want to make the activations real time and something that ultimately they just have to configure. They don't have to know how do I get the insight, and they don't have to know how do I put this together, because we ultimately package that in a way where they can just kind of configure and then be an operator of their fan experience, and then just look at the metrics to see how it's going. And that is what I think about for a lot of companies, which is becoming model driven, right? Where the data, you don't just understand it, but you're actually using the insights from predictive models in real time to drive your business. Yep. And that's what I want to do for all of our clients. I want them to be model driven in the way that they approach, they use their data in real time.
And you guys can
because
share
they use FanThreeSixty.
Best practices you see across the industry, across teams, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's the network effect.
Yep. Sure.
That's it. Even if you're really good,
we use that at full scale too. Like, I mean,
right.
when I talk to clients or potential clients and say, hey, look, I'm just going to try to help you understand what other people are doing successfully. And that data is, that insight it makes you can make you a little more proactive, rather than saying, man, I got to go I'm going to try to do something different and hope that it works out. So, well, Jason, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you guys.
I appreciate what you're doing with the live experience. I think it's really cool. I love the whole idea of using data analytics to, just have some basic business intelligence and insight. Really looking forward to seeing you. You want to come back at some point and let us know how this is continuing to grow, because this is a hot topic. The whole everything from data to machine learning to AI to all that is just such a massive growth area for startups in general.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
I'm gonna go ahead and end the show because I'm gonna travel halfway around the world where I'm gonna where I'm gonna keep up with all you guys, and maybe we'll do Matt Goes to Cebu Part 2.
We should.
Yeah. See you next time.